The overall situation and discourse surrounding Dragon Age the Veilguard has gotten a bit out of control. A lot, to be honest. A lot of issues and interesting conversations that we should be having around this game. A lot of important things regarding the quality of games, about writing in games, and especially about the review process and access journalism regarding games have been completely ignored and thrown away in favor of the posts that garner the most social media attention, which tend to be very black and white, very confrontational posts that lead to us versus them arguments. Articles like the one by Nathan Grayson claiming that YouTubers and Twitter commentators have poisoned the video game discourse by creating an alt-right fascist pipeline, in which they blatantly try and discredit anybody who has anything negative to say about Dragon Age the Veilguard. And so today I want to talk about some of those reactions to Dragon Age the Veilguard. I want to talk about the review controversy of Dragon Age the Veilguard, which are just facts that are now being manipulated into making you think that it's not an issue when it is. And at the end, I want to talk a bit about the dialogue and the writing in the game and how that is an important conversation to have as well. Hi, I'm Mug. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. I hope you enjoy everything that we're going to tackle here. And if you do, make sure to hit the like button. And I do want to start by that article by Nathan Grayson. It's really just quotes from their podcast that they have on their website Aftermath. And it's titled "The Dragon Age Review Controversy Shows How Much YouTube and Twitter Have Poisoned Video Game Discourse." This is, of course, the pot calling the kettle black because they are guilty of the exact same thing that they are claiming other people are. So either everyone's guilty or nobody is, but hey, let's stop for there because this is going to lead to a lot of important conversations, the ones that this article doesn't actually want to have. It starts off by claiming that everything that happens with video games these days is always steeped into some controversy that people then make a ton of videos about and tweets about as people get riled up and angry and get divided on things. And I believe that this is true. This is something that happens. Sometimes it feels very justified, sometimes it feels very fabricated. It depends on a case-by-case basis, like everything. Sometimes it starts off very innocent and is escalated by people on either side of the argument. And I'll give credit where it's due. We have seen with Dragon Age the Veilguard that a large amount of people really seem to want to hate the game even before it was out for one reason or another. Some of them, once again, entirely logical regarding the tone of Dragon Age, regarding the team making it, regarding many things, and some of them just wanting to jump in on a hate bandwagon and chase a trend. However, the shit that Nathan's peddling here is something that attempts to discredit anybody's opinion that doesn't fall in line with theirs. Oh man, isn't that curious? He says, and I quote, "Thanks to algorithmic prioritization on sites like YouTube and Twitter, this is how a growing number of people engage with video games. Plenty of normal people still manage to tune it out, the hours-long rant and conspiracy theories, but at one point does this rancid flavor of brain rot go from a vocal niche to a borderline mainstream position? And what are the long-term consequences of that? Ooh, spooky, we're headed towards doom and gloom." And this is basically how the playbook works. I'm not here to bullshit you. I will never do that. There are bad actors on every side of the spectrum. There are people out there who want to farm rage bait, and then there are people like Nathan who want to farm reactionary rage bait. And those extreme views that are grown from those perspectives do seep into conversations that are in the middle that I think are worth having. I made a video advocating for people to wait for reviews on Dragon Age the Veilguard because I believed it was going to be very divisive, and if you had any interest in it, you should wait to see what people had to say more in depth. And I had a group of people that said that even waiting for reviews is copium because the game is definitely going to be the worst thing ever made. Basically, that by saying something as radical as wait for reviews because this looks like it's gonna be a complicated situation, I must be some rainbow corporate DEI shill. Similarly, when I made a video that I admit I could have done better, a bit more concise, but a video that was based completely on facts, telling people that the review process for the game had been manipulated, that those reviews I told people to wait for weren't all there because EA manipulated things using access journalism, something we're going to talk about a bit later in this video, that is not fake news, I got called out as a rage baiter and a grifter, as well as some red-pilled conspiracy theorist chud, in a video that had nothing to do with Dragon Age the Veilguard, the game itself or its quality. It was exclusively focused on what EA's marketing and press team did to manipulate the public perception of an incredibly divisive game. And these things are going to happen. People are on edge and people are tense. Some people read a headline, take it into the territory that they want to take it to, and just use it to get mad. That's how the world works now. You can agree with this, you can disagree with it, but it is what it is. But articles like Nathan Grayson's are trying to discredit videos like mine. They're trying to discredit any video bringing attention to things and saying that they're all politically coded too. As the American fascist project continues to grow in power, and all of these platforms facilitate these ways of talking about things, conspiratorial thinking and whatnot, do we reach a point where this becomes the default? Let me re-explain this. By people saying that EA has done terrible shit, we are facilitating the American fascist project? Now, don't worry, later on they realize how stupid it is to just focus on America. By the way, shout out to about 70% of my audience that is not American. How's it going, mate? They then go back and forth about how these things are actually more important than they are, and they are radicalization engines for people, and then to remind themselves that it's actually not that big of a deal, because what is 1 million views compared to the people on the planet? So it's actually not that big of a deal, but also YouTubers are the worst, and they're all trying to breed fascist audiences. It is this narrow point of view that to me really shows where a lot of traditional gaming journalists sit at the moment, which is that instead of rejecting extremes and focusing on what fucking matters, they're busy screaming about things they don't like, which is the same thing that they criticize of people who are on YouTube screaming about things that they don't like, completely ignoring the fact that there is a healthy space on YouTube of people focusing on issues, or at least I know I exist, and I know that plenty of people just want to do good journalism, good reviews, and inform customers. But remember, those don't matter either. Please respect traditional gaming journalists. We are here to protect you, at least if you agree with us. And in this process, we discredit real conversations that need to happen, that are very good for everybody involved, and they discredit them by saying that they are all conspiracy theorists while spinning their own yard of conspiracy. So let me break down some facts for you about things that we should not forget regarding Dragon Age the Veilguard. EA, not BioWare, as far as we know, they shouldn't have been involved. EA's marketing and press team practiced access journalism in order to create an image, to fabricate an image that Dragon Age the Veilguard, a game that was destined to be controversial, to be divisive, no matter what, was actually loved by everyone, and that the unanimous consensus was that BioWare is back, baby! This is not a conspiracy, this is not fake news. Access journalism has been around forever. You could throw a dart in the pitch black into the ocean and accidentally hit a publisher practicing access journalism. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it refers to a kind of dual parasitic relationship between journalists and publishers. Reviewers, I consider myself a reviewer, not a journalist, because I hold journalists to a very high ethical standard that I don't think I could ever match, but I do review games. Reviewers want to give customers their opinion and their recommendation before a game is out, but to do that, they need to receive access to the game before it is out. There is something mutually beneficial here, especially if you've made a very good game, you let all of these reviewers play it, they all get an embargo, which is the time at which you can publicly talk about things. The reviews come out, and if the game is really good, there's all of this buzz online, a huge marketing push, OpenCritic, Metacritic, all of the banner ads, look, the game is amazing, everybody go pre-order right now and love it. And if the game isn't that good, or if there's mixed opinions on it, hopefully these reviewers report on it, and now you are wary and know to ignore the game or wait for a sale later on, things like that. The problem is that historically, not so much anymore in my opinion, reviewers depend on getting access to a game early in order to compete for views. Again, I think this is changing, but who was going to watch a review 2 weeks after the game was out? You wanted to know it before then because you wanted to get in on day one. And at the same time, publishers don't want their games to get bad review scores that could turn potential customers away. And this is how access journalism is born. Publishers have regularly given access to games to people who they believed were going to do them a solid and rate them favorably, or that would play along with what they wanted. And this is completely legal, just selectively choosing who would get to review the game and who wouldn't. And if you're wondering if this sort of access journalism has ever gone all the way into the deep end of corruption, yes, of course, a million times. Jeff Gerstmann, who was the editor-in-chief of GameSpot back in the day, really fired an alarm on this when he was actually fired from his job as editor-in-chief because he gave Kane and Lynch a 6 out of 10. This happened at the same time that the marketing team at the publisher had put up tons of week-long banner ads on GameSpot saying, hey, buy Kane and Lynch, pre-order Kane and Lynch, look at Kane and Lynch. And that marketing team, after the 6 out of 10 review, had a bone to pick with the advertising side of GameSpot, who then threw their weight around at Jeff Gerstmann, which again, editor-in-chief, not just some dude reviewing games freelance. And while we don't know all of the details of the situation, Jeff stood his ground and was fired. He then went on to co-found Giant Bomb, which he also left, I think around 2 or 3 years ago. Not for the same reasons, but it does go to show just how scummy a lot of the relationships can be within this side of journalism. Examples like these, while not as extreme, have existed forever. It is not fake news and it is not a conspiracy to say that access journalism is constantly being practiced at every level within gaming journalism. And it happened here with Dragon Age the Veilguard. Now I want to approach this from the most rational point of view possible. For this to happen, there needs to be a motive, and while there's the obvious motive of we don't want our game to get bad scores, there might be something beyond that. And I think it's pretty clear to pretty much anybody, I'm not a smart guy and I saw this coming from about 20 miles away, that Dragon Age the Veilguard was going to be a divisive game. It's the 4th entry into a series that has seen very significant changes in its gameplay and some shifts in its tone and approach to it in its 3 previous entries. And its 4th entry is once again a very big change in its gameplay and also a bigger shift in its tone. So you already have a fractured player base that now on the 4th entry is just compounding. Just from this perspective, you knew this game was going to be divisive, especially to fans of the franchise. On top of all of that, I don't know if you guys have looked out into the world, but this whole issue of the culture war is very present everywhere, and this is a game that contains a lot of stuff regarding non-binary people, trans people, things like that, which you know are always going to spark controversy. I know it, you know it, and EA 100% knows it, and I would not put it past a lot of publishers today, by the way. This is a conversation I think we're not ready to have just yet. But I wouldn't put it past them to force that sort of stuff in exclusively to create controversy around the game because all press is good press. Remember, these people want money. Don't ever assume that they care about good representation. Their number one goal is money. So because EA knew 100% how divisive the opinions would be around Dragon Age, the best way that they could portray this image of everybody agrees that Dragon Age the Veilguard is a return to form for BioWare was to minimize the opinions that would be negative or would bring up some of the more controversial aspects of the game. So they looked at the situation and they decided that certain people shouldn't be reviewing it, including certain outlets and 4 creators that have spoken up about it here on YouTube, being Wolfhard FPS, Luke Stevens, Fextralife, and ACG. 3 of those people were flown out to California, expenses paid, in order to attend a preview event where EA also manipulated the build and lied to people. Well, lied is a strong word. Let's say that they misled them. They told them that they were playing the first act of the game, which is technically true, but they didn't tell them that the first act of the game actually constitutes more or less 2/3 of the game. And they gave them a preview build of 6 to 7 hours with all of the highlights of all of that gameplay. And that does matter when it comes to then playing the game in full, because the dose is what makes the poison. After these creators went to this preview event, that is the difficult part, that is booking flights and hotel rooms for them. That is a very expensive process where they are already previously vetted. They sit down with people from the studio, they even interview people. After all of that, they didn't get the easy part done, which is sending them a review code at their Gmail. in order for them to play the game and get a review out like everybody else. And ACG, which is a reviewer on this platform that I respect greatly, him and SkillUp both pay for their own expenses whenever they have to fly out somewhere to do a preview event, and ACG has been very vocal about the Star Wars Outlaws preview event where everybody got a premium VIP experience at Disneyland and then also played Star Wars Outlaws, and he did not go for the preview event for Dragon Age the Veilguard and has been publicly saying that the reason he didn't get review code is because he didn't comply with what EA wanted, which is to go to the preview event, play the best version of the game possible, and then make a very positive preview video, probably, on the game. The others, however, did attend, did make a preview, and then got denied review code. And this is where I have to start debunking a lot of the reasons that people say that this conspiracy about something that's been around forever are dumb. The first one is that there's also bad reviews of the game out there. This is very simply explained. EA does not have this down to a science. They are going on vibes most of the time. They see a person's preview, the person is incredibly positive on the game, they're like, there's a good chance they're going to give it a good review, send them review code. Then they play the game, and it turns out that it's not that good when stretched out, when taken into account for everything in it, and somebody gave it a bad review score. That happens all the time. Maybe they dug a little bit deeper into some of people's backlogs of content, and they said, ooh, this person is risky because of the type of content they make. They might be more inclined to look at the game a certain way. Or this person just brought up a lot of complaints within their preview that in the final game are going to be even more present, so it's better not to send it to them. But that doesn't mean you weed everybody out. People mention SkillUp, for example. That's one of the best examples here. The preview was done by Austin, another member of the team, completely different relationship to Dragon Age, played that very curated preview slice, had a very good opinion of it, and then the final review was done by Ralph, very different person, different history with the franchise, gave it a very bad review. It's not a science, it's risk management. The second thing that I've seen thrown around is that there weren't enough review codes, which, let's get over the absurdity that this is a massive publisher with their own platform, by the way. They don't even need to deal with Steam in the worst case. These are just strings of code for licenses. You press a button and you give it to people. You just make new ones. It's not a finite resource, as proven by the fact that plenty of outlets got review codes in excess to give out to everybody at the office, not just the reviewer. Proven by the fact that a bunch of small YouTubers got codes. People with 15 to 20,000 subscribers that are deep within the Dragon Age community, that they bet on either being very positive or not having that much reach in being negative. But the fact that small creators did get codes when creators like Wolfhard FPS, who basically covers RPGs with over 200,000 subscribers, didn't. Luke Stevens with over 500,000 subscribers didn't. And Fextralife and ACG with over 1 million subscribers didn't. And I want to make it very clear here that it doesn't matter if you trust or like these people at all. They are reputable reviewers within the space with a very established audience that values their opinion. The people who suffer here are the audiences who aren't getting the opinions from the people they trust. I was one of the first people calling out Fextralife for their Twitch botting situation. That video is still up on the channel. I'm not what you would call a Fextralife fan, but I applaud them for standing up and talking about this. And the final piece of this puzzle are the people saying if they were EA, they would have also not sent out review codes to these grifters that were predisposed to hate the game. And that's not how any of this works. How could you agree with them manipulating the process to create the best image of the game as possible just because you don't like somebody? Because you don't like someone doesn't mean that they deserve to be silenced. Their opinion should be out there, especially when it comes to something like a review of a video game. So what can we do about it? Well, for now we can complain. I've seen plenty of people say that you either give review codes to everybody over a certain size or to nobody at all, or that we should have an organization out there that does govern pretty much everybody and that companies need to go through in order to get the review process out there, which does benefit them. But there is no perfect answer to any of this. Not having any review codes means we won't get information before the game is out, which some people are fine with, but I personally like that reviews are out. I'm not saying this because I get a lot of review codes. Trust me, I don't think this channel is in the good graces of many corporations and publishers, I know for a fact a lot of developers do like it, but publishers, I scream at them a lot for the horrible things they do, so I don't think we're ever really going to be on good terms. I say it as a consumer. I like knowing beforehand opinions from people I trust. Giving everybody review codes means that there's a lot of power on whoever organizes that, because there are issues with that. What about people who break embargo, or people who have legitimate reasons to not receive review codes because they've acted in bad faith or not wanted to play on the even playing field before, and who's going to judge over that? My point is, there's conversations to be had regarding this, but they are conversations we need to have in order to guarantee a progress, a better future for when it comes to reporting and reviewing of video games in the interest of the consumer. And we can't do that, because if you complain about EA, you're a horrible person or something. So please keep these conversations alive. They might be difficult to have, especially at these moments where things get so quickly twisted into extremes, but we can't let these things pass us by. The other thing that I want to bring up is the controversy surrounding things like the language and the dialogue written around those scenes in Dragon Age the Veilguard of somebody being non-binary or of somebody being trans. And I'm not going to give my opinion on it just yet, because while I can look at the scenes on Twitter and I do not like the way they are written, I do not like the language that is there, I have no problem with them existing. This is normal for BioWare. They have always had these sorts of things in their game. I just think that here, I don't like the way that they are written into the story. I don't like the way that they are portrayed. But I don't want to give my full opinion yet, because I haven't experienced them myself. And we do live in an era where a lot of these clips are completely out of context that does matter. Again, I can evaluate what I can see and say, hey, I don't like this or this, but I don't think I'm capable of giving more constructive criticism, of really analyzing what I don't like about it until I see it for myself in the game. I don't know if maybe I have to make 4 decisions in a row to reach those conversations, if I have to lean into them, or if they're prepped in a certain way beforehand, because we only have these clips, and some people do manipulate things in order to get the most traction, the most clicks, to get the most reactions out of people. So I just can't trust these things fully without diving into it myself. And that is the part that saddens me. That I have to be wary of everything, that I don't trust most of the things I see online unless I see them for myself, and I'm very aware of the issue that many people maybe won't trust me when I say things despite me having that approach to stuff. I'm a person who overthinks a lot. It's not my best trait. I have plenty of bad traits, but that's one of the worst. I have thought a lot about the fact that the easiest way to grow a YouTube channel is to say the things that people want you to say. To align more with the most popular feeling on the internet, which, for something like Dragon Age the Veilguard, seemed to be negative on the game before release. But it's not even that. It's anything ever. There are predetermined opinions out there that people want you to have, and if you do, they're going to like you more. Just align yourself with the majority. And I refuse. I've refused to do so for a pretty long time. My opinions have clashed with a lot of the general consensus in my short time on YouTube already, and I want to keep doing that. I don't want to ever be afraid or incentivized to just go with what's easy. And I think that this is something that is truly poisoning the well out there. That people who have platforms are going to find themselves forced into following whatever their audience wants instead of being authentic to themselves. Because you can gain an audience for aligning yourself with certain things, and then you become too afraid to ever approach the nuance of a conversation. Which is why, hopefully, I'm doing a decent job of, creating a channel that's based on me, which includes a lot of nuance, and it includes a lot of opinions that maybe you won't agree with, but that hopefully I can explain my perspective like as a rational human being, instead of just being like, this is what Twitter told me is cool. I really do think about it a lot. But what I think is the most important thing here is that the conversations in the middle, the conversations with nuance, are things that we should care about. And we can't let those be washed away by every piece of controversy then becoming one side screaming about the other side being liars. If there are sides, it's because they both have valid points that deserve to be investigated and treated with respect, not discredited immediately by people who just stand there and say, no, you're the bad one. It's ridiculous to me, no matter from which perspective you want to look at it. And in the case of Dragon Age the Veilguard, I think that the game isn't the worst thing ever. I think that I have complaints, but I can totally see the situation in which somebody really likes this game, really connects with it and enjoys it, a world where they can overlook some of the issues I have with the writing or with the role-playing. Maybe the way that the characters are written are exactly how they would have role-played anyways, so they don't even notice those issues, and how they can enjoy the world and the gameplay and some of the good stuff in that game. And because they like the game, that doesn't mean anything else about them. That just means they like it. That's good for them, man. That's like, be happy. But on the other side, just because I criticize EA in something that is an important conversation doesn't mean that I hate the game, and just because I tell people to be cautious and wait for reviews doesn't mean I love it and that I have to be aligned with any of these things. And I'm not using myself as an example because I'm particularly bothered by this. I'm fine with it. I'm bothered by how these things attempt to sweep away important conversations. So please just remember that there's a lot of important shit in the middle, in the nuance of things, that we shouldn't let them take away. This isn't about who's right or who's wrong. This is about the things that we should all be agreeing on. This is not us versus them. This is all of us versus the bad stuff. Anti-consumer practices and manipulating consumers is bad. And not being able to have civil, rational conversations around the quality of writing or dialogue or what your opinion is on a game without it turning into some socio-political clusterfuck is not okay. This is how the internet is, so I'm sure somebody's gonna have some pretty harsh opinions for me for saying that very controversial statement. I've been Mug. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to like. If you want more from me, remember to subscribe. I work very hard to hopefully make this channel better every day. I'm exhausted, but I keep working hard. Part of that motivation comes from the $1 patron wall. It's called that way because there's only one tier, $1, but everybody on that patron wall supports everything I do every single day, and I am eternally grateful. If you're interested in joining, the information is in the description down below. Truly, thank you all for watching, and as always, I'll see you again very soon.